everyone, I wanted to make this video to show you how to set up your own art studio at home. It's a really good idea to have a place that you can go to create art where you feel comfortable and prepared and ready to make the art so that it's not stressful in any way. You also want to find a place in your house where you can leave your art supplies out, but you're not trashing the house or leaving a mess behind. So try to find a place that's kind of tucked away or that's not going to get too disturbed so that you can leave it out. First thing you should look for is a good flat surface that you can work with each time. This is an old table I have in my basement. I really love the finish on this table, so I want to preserve it. So I always recommend covering your workspace up with something. Even if it's a beat-up old table, you still want to protect your artwork as well as the surface that you're working on in case you're using something sharp to cut into it, you're spilling paint or glue, whichever. So what I like to do is I take an old piece of construction paper. This is a white piece. I prefer to have white as my cover-up because I like to be able to see the details of the work I'm doing. But whatever paper you have will work. If you want to use newspaper will work out fine too. But like I said, when I'm using newspaper, I find it distracting to have all of this. And sometimes the print will come off on, let's say you're working with water and you're using watercolors. The print might come off and onto your actual artwork. So I'm not a big fan of using newspaper as my base paper. I like to use old construction paper. But if you have something else that you prefer to use, that would be fine too. Whatever works. The next thing I like to look for is the lighting. If the lighting is really dark, like I said, I'm in a basement right now, but I have great lighting in here. My husband used to have this as his workshop, and I kind of took it over. So it has really good lighting in here for me. However, you may not be that fortunate to have that kind of lighting where you set up your little art studio. So maybe pull a lamp closer to you. Take a lampshade off. Sit near, put your tabletop or your drawing board, whatever you're using, near a window so you have natural lighting. However, that'll create a problem at night if you're working at nighttime. So make sure you always have some good light source that you can bring to the space. The next thing I like to say is you really can benefit from having the must-have supplies that you're always going to have, like I call them my go-to supplies nearby. So I keep everything in old coffee mugs. This was a really large coffee mug that nobody in my house ever used, so I took it and started filling it with my favorite pencils, the type of paintbrushes I like to have. I have a variety of paintbrushes that I keep on hand most of the time nearby. As you can see, these are all different tips. I like to keep those nearby. I'm a fanatic for pencils. I don't work with pens hardly ever because it's too permanent in my book, so I like to always have my pencils sharpened and ready to go. I have my favorite sewing scissors nearby. These are really good ones that are sturdy and will hold up in any kind of, right next to cardboard. I wouldn't use these on cardboard, but right up to a cardboard level I would use these on. I always also like to have a glue stick on hand. If you don't have glue sticks available to you, Elmer's glue will be just fine. I find white Elmer's glue, however, is not easy to control, so I also like to use a paintbrush to apply that. I'll pour a little bit of that Elmer's glue onto the cardboard or a piece of cardboard, and I will dip and paint my glue on. And that just gives you a little more control. Always make sure that you have a plastic cup of water nearby to put the brush tip into when you're not using it at the moment, because the glue will harden on the brush tip right away and ruin the brush. I also always keep masking tape nearby because you never know when you need to keep something stuck together, pieced together, or you're using it as a border, whatever it may be. Tape is always really good to have nearby. I use old clear plastic cups that I have, so I don't throw them out. I keep them to hold in whatever markers or pen sets I'm working with at the moment. I use those to keep that going. I also really like to use old shoe boxes. And again, rated a lot of my kids' school supplies at the end of every school year. My kids threw their stuff in their backpacks, left it there until I emptied them out. They never got around to it until the end of summer if I waited for them. So for me, I have a whole bunch of different types of colored pencils that they didn't use or didn't want to use anymore, because come the fall, they always wanted new supplies. They didn't want old ones, they wanted the new ones. So I made use and repurposed their old ones for my own needs. But shoe boxes are really great. What I like about shoe boxes, also when you're doing a smaller studio setup within your home, is you can put away the supplies you're not using, take it away, and then when you're ready to work again, pull out the shoebox and bring it to the workspace. I leave my must-haves always in my workspace, but I never know what supply I'm going to be using. So like maybe tomorrow I'm going to be using oil pastels. So those I have in a old ceramic bowl that nobody wanted from the high school, so I made use of that. So I like to bring my supplies as I need them to the table so I don't clutter up my workspace so much. However, the shoebox works really well, plastic cups work really well. I keep the newspaper on hand if I wanted to, for catch spills when I'm painting, or if I want to glue something down, and then I take the paper away so that my work surface is still clean from glue. So I always keep a stack of newspapers nearby. I also like to have rulers on hand. You never know when you're going to need a straight edge. For me, a ruler could be any size as long as it's got a nice straight edge. My favorite is, though, if it has a cork back. If it has a cork back, then you know it's not going to slide around when you're using, let's say, an X-Acto knife, or if you're trying to make a very exact measurement. But if you don't have one of those, that's okay. Just be real careful to hold it down. You know, the way to hold it is with a thumb and a forefinger and really keep it firmly pressed down. Another thing I like to have on hand is some snacks, maybe some gum, a water bottle, something nearby so that I know I don't have to keep getting up every time I think of something else I want. And the last thing I like to keep nearby, and this again is my way of repurposing anything that's a piece of paper that hasn't been used fully, I like to cut down to smaller pieces of paper so that if I want to test out a marker, test out a watercolor, or take a note or two, or write my measurements down, I've got scrap paper nearby and ready to go. So if you have a setup like this in a nice corner of your house or in the basement like me, you'll be good to go whenever you're ready to create your art. All right?